lineup is going to actually be able to take it, as bans are already coming through thick and fast. Rengar aimed at Insec is an interesting ban away here, but Rek'Sai going to hit the bench. Lissandra as well, very standard ban, but Nidalee gone at the same time. That is 3 jungle bans straight away, and Zero, I don't know whether he's going to play Thresh again this season.
I mean, Zero's Thresh is so wonderful. Balances disengage with engage, so it's just a smart ban against him. Forces him potentially on a disengage support or something a bit outside his comfort zone.
Ooh,
Lulu's up. Lulu's going to be locked in.
And we'll see whether Style and Royal Club can pick away from the potential Juggernaut coming through from Deft, because he has shown that his Kog'Maw is terrifying, and now that they have the opportunity to pick up that Lulu in almost any lane, I mean, that's still a flex pick, you have to remember, so it's not necessarily going to be going into that mid or top lane to make sure that they have the wild growth at such high potential, but Godlike going to pick up the Maokai, and we'll see whether the Janna is enough to deter EDG from that Juggernaut comp.
Yeah, Godlike's always been a super tank player. Makes sense. Maokai, Renekton, those are the champions you associate with him. Played almost exclusively Maokai. I believe it was taken away from him once. I kind of guessed that the Nunu would be back. It's Nunu week, I think, in the LPL. Week 9. Maybe it's only every 3 weeks that Nunu's allowed to come out, but there he is. And, hey, you reckon there's going to be a hyper carry here, Atlas?
I'm not entirely sure there, Papa Smithy. Because do all of these champions have things that they can offer a hyper carry?
The utility is strong. In fact, I'll just take the Kog'Maw now. Whatever. No pretenses needed.
None at all. Of course, the Janna already locked in. It's not like they're going to be able to easily pick away that Nami, but oh my goodness. Are we going to get the Insect Pantheon jungle in 5.4? I would be so excited if this gets locked in.
Pantheon's an interesting one against Juggernaut just because, again, you can ult into the backline and maybe do something, maybe force something really strong. I love the Korn takeaway of Ahri. He's a great Ahri player. It's definitely been his most powerful pick this season.
Whoa.
I'd be surprised to see Zac. 5.5 is definitely Zac's paddock, but on 5.4, don't really see him. He's considering options. Will he go for his namesake? Yep, it's locked in. It's going to be Insec on the Lee Sin.
Yeah, Insec, of course, one of the first players to really bring Lee Sin to the forefront. In fact, has a certain maneuver named after him. As EDG now up to them to round out this Juggernaut lineup.
It's not an ideal lane matchup, but if you can hang back and wave clear, the Victor is fine against Ahri. You just kind of seed skirmish pressure around mid lane. You basically want to get that Aftershock enchant, mow down the back wave, and then just kite backwards. But they already have the Lulu locked in. It could still be a Lulu for wave clear. They lock in the Nami for disengage. This is a comp, though, that Snake struggled to pick off. I don't like the Mundo with this comp because, again, your power spikes are a bit scattered. Now you go from having a mid-game top laner like the Morgana or Lulu into the late-game top laner coming through in Dr. Mundo. Interesting, and you can see this hover. This is definitely Name's trademark champion. It's locked in. He locks in his Twitch.
Locks it in straight up here, and Name, wasting no time, knows that he needs to be getting around this map early on, but also have massive amounts of power in the late game. How do you do that better than on Twitch?
And the mid-game pressure that the Blade the Ruin King Twitch, you just finish that item and you just come in and get those ambush pickoffs. This is a really interesting draft to dissect. Very similar comp coming through from Snake, lost with almost the exact lineup. The Dr. Mundo just kind of holding them behind. Specifically, it was the Dr. Mundo being held down in terms of gold, never really reaching a power spike, and just the Juggernaut comp not coming together because Dr. Mundo was at the front of fight, not the Kog'Maw as we expect in a Juggernaut comp. Very interesting. Dr. Mundo has a good laning matchup against Maokai. Probably will see lane swaps coming in. Clear loves Nunu. That's the big question mark for this game.
Yeah, and is Clear Love's Nunu, of course, Nunu known for his counter-jungling pressure, known for being able to steal away camps. Is that going to work against Insect's Lee Sin?
I don't know, Atlas, and I want to focus on the screen, though. Kog'Maw versus Twitch. I cannot believe that Name is going to bring out the Twitch. If you've been watching Chinese Guns just from 2014, you'd think, okay, Name, I think about him for his Lucian. Definitely that's one of his newer champions, but Twitch, his original signature pick next to the Varus that we might see sometime late in the season, maybe around patch 5.5.
I hope so.
Name on Twitch, though, this is exciting.
Yeah, this is incredibly exciting. And let's waste no time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the game. And we're onto the rift, ladies and gentlemen, with EDG taking on Starhorn Royal Club. And you can see Papa Smithy definitely happy about that zoom in onto Name's Twitch for the first time in the LPL this season.
Absolutely. He hasn't played a lot of champions, just the Jinx games, the Corki. Now he moves on to the Twitch. The lane matchup against Kog'Maw, don't fancy it, but if he can use the Blade the Rune King power spike that, in fact, it was Deft on Samsung Blue that was so famous for towards Worlds and in the OGN last season, the Twitch in the mid game can definitely undo a lot of what you're trying to do in terms of positioning with that ambush.
Oh yeah, now both of these teams now swapping sides. So we're going to have a red side EDG from this point onward. Royal Club hanging out towards this bottom side, getting some deep wards, but we'll see whether one of these teams is actually going to set up to try and counter this, because there could be some potential
There could be
rush
fireworks,
action.
Atlas.
Certainly could. And it is going to be EDG actually hanging around here, but Royal Club, they're not going to bite. They're going to get their wards down, and looks like everyone's going to be backing off.
Spot them out. It's probably smart to back away, although Insect does walk. They have complete vision of the 5 members. Maokai is going to leave, so they're not going to look for any sort of level 1 Titanic fight. And EDG know that at some point in the last 40 seconds, Starhorn Royal Club were on their side of the jungle.
Oh, most certainly. But, like ships in the night, they're going to pass each other by. You're going to have Korn heading towards that mid lane. Pawn going to meet him there as well. As Insect going to start off on his own here on the Gromp. A little bit sadly, and
look where Name's positioned, though.
What? Oh, they're going for the late lane swap. They're going to miss out on a whole lot of creeps, but they really did not want to straight up lane against Deft and Miko.
I mean, this is actually an excellent laning matchup. Kog'Maw Nami is definitely the strongest of the Kog'Maw lanes. EDG very aggressive. See, Korra getting experience from the mini golems next to the blue buff.
They're going to be able to actually take away this blue buff here as well. Of course, Clearlove just eats it up. And the Cookie Monster being very mean early on in this game.
Yeah, you can see just walking past the Scuttle Crab. Will Insect be able to pick up 2 buffs of his own? That's kind of the big question mark. They've moved their support. There will be 3 members towards their blue buff. I think still, despite that late invade, Starhorn Royal Club should pick up the 3 buffs.
Yeah, and Royal Club, they do have the advantage of having Korn able to push out this mid lane as well. So he's off the map. And no one going to be able to respond to this blue buff going down here. So Insect does end up picking up a blue buff eventually in the end, but some good early pressure from Clearlove, most
So we'll have to wait till we see top lane just to spy whether the freeze was able to happen. Remember, entered lane a lot later than Deft, so it would have been much harder to get a lane freeze given the minion wave had already broken. You couldn't go for the lane freezing mechanics that we see those top 80 carrier players do. But in this time, they've got Dr. Mundo and Nunu so much dragon damage. This should be a super early dragon from EDG.
Yeah, Mako coming in here as well. The ebb and flow giving a whole lot of health back to Clearlove, who barely took damage at level 2. 3.5 minutes into the game, and the dragon falls down without a hitch. It's the fast push in response here from Royal Club as Godlike came around here as well.
This was the only strategic option Starhorn Royal Club had because they weren't able to force the freeze. Even despite the fact that turret reinforcements are a thing, you can get turrets down early. It was about a 4-minute turret in the previous series. I don't know if it's going to be a 4-minute turret here, but it's only about 30 seconds till we see outer turrets come tumbling down.
Yeah, and the Wolves actually going to be denied here as well from Clearlove as he continues his assault into Insect's jungle. Taking away the Gromp at the same time. Impossible to deny that one. Of course, there's only one camp there as Korra. He's going to head back. Godlike might actually find him before he finishes that one off. He's quite low. He's actually going to be forced to stop that one. He's Godlike. He's going to head back here as well. Sapling in the brush? Yep, that's going to happen. Korra going to have to stop his bag yet again. Oh, no, he made it up.
The damage did not register just during the untargetability at the last second of the teleport. Knowing that Maokai is coming in, they're starting the freeze, but this will be a nice bit of global gold coming through to Starhorn Royal Club.
Yeah, Name able to finish that one up. Actually tanked a couple of turret bolts there as well, just to make sure that the lane did equalize. So not going to be frozen here by Koro as he heads back, and Name will be able to pick up a couple of items.
Doesn't have the bilge water. That's usually the time when Twitches find enough strength to be able to opt back into a 2v2 lane. Only the Vamp Scepter watching Name on the minimap. Will he return to top? Will he go down to bottom? He's going to judge his power compared to this deft Mako lane and then make his decision.
Does it make a bit of a difference whether or not Style and Royal Club actually know whether that dragon went down?
I don't think it's actually a big concern. Again, you don't really want to opt into a 2v2 if the dragon's down, so perhaps it's worth a consideration. I don't know if they pathed over. I don't believe they have necessarily, as Janna might find out right now that dragon's been taken down. You just don't want to enter lane against a lane that's actually objectively better than yours. I'd definitely take Kog'Maw Nami in a 2v2 trade against Janna Twitch. It's Janna not the strongest laning champion, and Twitch one of the weakest laning AD carries. With the Bilgewater, enough lifesteal that perhaps when you get topped up with AD, you have effective lifesteal. Pawn takes a big burst of damage.
Yeah, massive burst of damage here as well. Does Whimsy himself up, forced to use that flash as the Ignite's ticking down. Almost gets taken out, of course, thanks to that potion. Is going to stay alive, but Flash is down here in the mid lane. That
looked like a super potent Ignite because it was a double application of Ignite. Now Insect's going in.
Oh, he lands it. Is the Tempest going to be there? There it is. Oh my goodness. That polymorph was out of control. And the Aqua Prison to finish it off. Mako there for the support. Beautiful bait work from Pawn.
That was clutch. I don't know if it was a bait. He needed to be getting out of there, but it was so pinpoint. The bounce aggressively bounces back and makes him live. EDG, one of the top teams. Sometimes you make your own luck, Atlas.
Oh, that was absolutely ridiculous. And the polymorph came through at exactly the right time, just before the Tempest could even come through. Pawn is so good.
Watch the replay. So Insect does hit the Q. The Resonating Strike is taken. One more auto attack. The red buff, even just the AD would take him down. Man. Game of inches.
Oh, yeah, and I think that was an ebb and flow as well that healed him up to make sure that he didn't die from that red. That's just silly coming through from Mako, sorry, and incredible play. Name now pushing relatively hard here in the top side of the map, but EDG, when do they hit their spike? When do they hit the point where they want to be fighting, when they want to be taking over this game with this comp?
The scary thing, and when we saw the Snake comp, I talked about the fact that Juggernaut comps tick in about 30 minutes into the game. You know, once you start to get 280 items on your Kog'Maw and 40% CDR on your supportive champions. The scary thing is that with Dr. Mundo, that time is actually sent back. It's more of a late game comp than before, but Name's looking for the pick.
Oh, Charm doesn't actually land here as well as the ambush has come through. The Contaminate is going to be there. There's the Wild Growth as Insect comes in. Name contaminates for the kill, and it all looks like it's being turned around in the mid lane.
And Pawn, after winning the game of inches, suddenly finds 3 enemies in his lane. The ambush not being able to be accounted for. Pick up the kill they wanted a moment ago. But can they get any advantages around it? Because Dragon's still a minute and a half away.
Yeah, and securing that kill for Name there as well is so important. Of course, Def's still on 0-0-0, and Name behind in farm. So really wants to add those extra dollars in order to pick up the items that he needs to. And you mentioned the fact that Bilgewater is a time where he feels like he might be able to enter that lane, and heading down to the bot side now.
It's still not ideal. It's still not the greatest lane matchup, of course. Twitch is only good at all-in trades when his ultimate's available and gets severely outranged other than that with the Biocane Barrage. Only 3 points in it, of course. We'll get towards the 4th and 5th point as he hits level 9. But the burst trades, and then Nami has the sustain advantage. They have the potential slow coming through from the Tychor's Blessing. In terms of strategic options, they're quite limited in this 2v2, so only really an all-in trade, otherwise really having to hang back and really cede all the lane advantage to Death.
Yeah, nice Eye of the Storm there coming through from Zero to stop the living artillery damage, and Deft seeing whether he can put the pressure on. You can see landing these ultimates one after the other on the Little Rat. And we'll see whether this is going to be all Deft's lane or whether Name and Zero can wrest some control.
So we'll turn back to your point about timings and advantages for EDG. Remember, they have the first strike. They already have a big advantage. You know, the Aqua Prison isn't going to be acted upon. The Dr. Mundo sets back their timings. Dr. Mundo needs to hit 2-3 health and armor items to really take over the game. But because they took the first dragon, the critical factor about the Snake game was, in fact, they lost all the 5 first dragons, so they were actually against a 5-dragon team. In this situation, they've taken the first dragon. They have control over objectives. They're 1 turret behind, but they're in a much better situation. So the late game is still far away, but with a giant spell pickup, the laning phase has gone a lot better for Koro than it did for Flandre.
Yeah, and you have to think as well, I mean, the fact that they've taken the first dragon, they can now concede the, 4 in a row if they want to. They've got those 6% stats. They've got the most important one.
And again, the other factor is, let's say the 5th dragon is one of the win conditions against Juggernaut comp. Breaking the base is the big one, but 5th Dragon, very helpful in that regard. The 5th Dragon's now going to be, at minimum, 30 minutes away. If it was taken exactly at this second, it would be up at the 40-minute mark. That's when Dr. Mundo's definitely going to have 3 items. So yes, you set the timings back so fast by taking that thickness, we might see an all-in.
Yeah, there's the tidal wave coming through as well. Name trying to ambush out, but he gets spotted by the living artillery. There's the absolute 0, and absolutely 0 places for Name to go as he falls down. Godlike coming through, but he takes half of his health instantly. Deft is already doing so much damage with this Sheen on top of everything else, and Name, the first death for him this game. Deft definitely coming out ahead on that one. Now evening up the kills between these AD carries.
The Deft living artillery was the crucial factor, giving the slight reveal, delaying the ambush that much longer. The pink ward and the brush from Mako guaranteed the kill. But EDG, excellent play. They're going to get a second dragon. They should be behind in dragons with the comp. They're getting a late game comp, taking the first 2 dragons. This is all opened up by the Nunu. It's week of the Nunu, at least the Friday of the Nunu, and he's been so powerful in both his performances.
Yeah, and what a better player to be on this Nunu as well. This high-impact champion, and Clearlove, whenever we see him on it, just disregards turrets generally. I believe that was our last experience with Clearlove's Nunu. It was him just running around under turrets, not really minding about what's going on.
I mean, look, he's already sitting at a lazy 1600 health 11 minutes into the game. He doesn't have his Juggernaut just yet. Might not even be the item choice he goes for, although doesn't really synergize with any of the other jungle enchants. You mentioned it very clearly. He just wants to go under turrets. He'll tank turrets happily, open up more auto attacks for Deft. Very hard to move away from Deft's damage because he has such sheer range with 4 points into the Bioarcane Barrage. Actually doesn't even have a point in his queue, the Caustic Spittle. Doesn't even need the attack speed. Just focusing on wave clear options and disengage with the more points in the ooze.
Very strange. Sort of making sure
probably level 8, I'd guess, Alex.
I like Caustic Spittle. Mostly because I just like the name of the ability, but not going to be taking that one just yet. It's an interesting way to play this Kog'Maw, and of course, I'm not going to question it because Deft, he's played it before, and he looked incredibly good when he was playing it last time.
So at this point, you have to think Name's really going to have to take advantage of his Blade of the Ruin King spite. It's been delayed. It's about 500 gold away from that item, but has a lot of attack speed. They're through a pink ward, but they'll be face-checking an enemy pink ward.
I think what is going to be discovered, as you mentioned, 4 members strong here in the mid lane. Pawn might need to be careful. Does have his flash back off cooldown here as well, as Mako and Deft still in the bottom lane, but Clearlove is here in the mid.
And Pawn, despite all his carry performances on the like of LeBlanc, goes absolutely to the opposite end of the spectrum. Just been wave clean being spotted. And speaking of being spotted.
Yeah, there's the Aqua Prison to come through here as well. Charm doesn't land, but there it is. The ultimate to come through from Name as the Contaminate comes down. Tidal Wave doesn't find the target as Insect looking for a way in. Deft's here now as well as the Ooze does quite a considerable amount of damage.
And well, it's got the extra point in it, so it shouldn't be too that surprising. I'll check over to see, yes, he does have a point in... No, it still doesn't have a point in the queue. Amazingly, at level 8, still hasn't got any points in Caustic Spittle.
Yeah, 3 levels in the Voiders, and you can see exactly why. Did a lot of damage there. Eye of the Storm not going to be enough to stop Name from taking a whole host of damage. Aqua Prison just barely misses, as Name does get the ambush off.
Man, Kog'Maw's a really good champion if you hit all your living artilleries, and Deft, I believe since he's entered lane, has hit at least 90% of that ability.
Maybe now 80 as Sonic Wave lands here as well. Deft gets kicked back under the turret. He's going to die. Insect might pay for it as well, as the Acathian Surprise is going to find him, but no, not this time, as Name is going to continue farming.
Yeah, Deft's flash not available. Very aggressive engage from Insect, but well pulled off. At least relieve some pressure from Name. He should be able to farm up his way to the Ruin King. I believe he's about 100 gold away. Whether he can use that item timing to really start to take over the mid game, because we've already alluded to how strong the late game is for EDG. This is the moment where Sahan Royal Club really need to start suffocating EDG out of the map, because every resource they funnel into either Kog'Maw or Mundo adds a timer onto this game.
Well, and this is the thing, and often sort of when Mundo was right in the top of the meta, what you'd say is if you hadn't stopped a Mundo from doing exactly what he wants, but by the time he hits level 6, things start to get to warning stations, and right now he's got a 4 CS advantage there in the top lane. We haven't seen from this Mundo all game. Koru's just been able to do what he wants.
And that's why IG navigated around the Mundo, took down both of his turrets. He was trying to farm at max range with cleavers against an AD carry, despite building magic resist, a bit of a spirit visage, farming at his inner top turret. Sorry, inhibitor turret in the top lane. In this case, he's been left to his own devices. 91 CS ahead of CS against a Maokai, builds a Sunfire Cape just for a bit more wave pushing. Koro's been left alone completely. They've actually put more resources into trying to shut down Pawn. Pawn has such a lower item ceiling, only needs Merlinomicon and CDR boost to be relevant. 40% CDR, any AP on top of that's just gravy. And Mundo, with a high item ceiling, hasn't been the target of any attention from Starhorn Royal Club.
Yeah, and he already has that Sunfire Cape built up, not building for his lane here at all, sort of building to be able to clear out minion waves as quickly as he possibly can. Early statistics for this Mundo just so that he can make it through to his power point. And I actually quite like that. Howling Gale coming through here in this bottom side, but it's Zero taking all the damage. Beautiful Aqua Prison onto Name. Mako has been fantastic on this Nami, you have to say. And
Name's actually activated his ultimate. The Rat-a-tat-tat's been used, so now he isn't even able to have damage trades. The cooldown on the Biocane Barrage is a lot shorter than the Rat-a-tat-tat, and Name has very low wave clear. Very low trading ability as Clearlove spotted out by a ward.
Yeah, he's going to be spotted just there. Insect coming through here as well is going to be able to clear that one out. Korn notices that there are people that moves towards the bottom of the lane, but not actually going to leave, as Pawn's going to do the same. Koro continuing to push relentlessly here on the top side of the map. Godlike taking some cleavers to the face, but of course, bit of a wet noodle fight up there, as they're just going to be throwing things at each other.
The wet noodle is going to get a lot warmer very soon, Atlas. Koro's primed to go off. The Sunfire Cape, although it's an early game pickup, remember, they have 2 dragons. They're still realistically looking to fight dragons, despite the fact that the enemy comp is much stronger at dragon control. So might as well go for early statistics to be able to fight for the next dragon. It comes up in 15 seconds. It's the movement speed buff of all things in EDG to have 3 dragons. I mean, like, it's weird to consider that a massive thing, but it's so big for a late game scaling comp to have 3 dragons on the board.
Insec is hanging around here, of course. It is up in about a second. They know most definitely that the dragon's there. So much ward control actually around here for Royal Club towards that bottom side of the map. Korn coming down as well. They really want to be able to secure this dragon. We'll see whether they manage to get the pick before they do, as they must know that EDG have a focus on this as well.
Yeah, Mundo's shopped already, has the Spirit Visage, now has the Magic Resist. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world when the Spirit Visage comes through, but it's going to be a massive item timing for Mundo. Scales so many times with health regen. Starhorn Royal Club, as you mentioned, they do have a Vision Stranglehold on Dragon, but Clearlove, he's got the Sightstone. He's going to try and delay this as much as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of wards to throw over there, as you can see. Of course, Royal Club now invisible to the likes of EDG, but of course, Dragon giving away exactly what's going on, and Royal Club not going to start this one up. No backs to come through here. Name looked like he was thinking about it, but of course going to stay in this lane, make sure that they don't cede control of this dragon.
To some degree, though, they have ceded a lot of control of the dragon. They also bought, at minimum, enough time for Koro to hit level 11. At level 1, that Masochism actually doesn't regenerate that much health, but the upside of the ability is so much stronger at level 11. Cooldown reduction, of course, goes down. Pawn reacts to Clearlove, so now they clear out a pink ward. And they're slowly actually getting a Vision Stranglehold on this dragon. Maybe the time for Starhorn Royal Club to pick up their first dragon has passed.
And speaking of which, Koro just hanging out in the enemy jungle as well. Picks up a red buff for his trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no problem there. Does pop his ultimate. The sadism off there as Godlike gets slowed down by a cleaver. Not sure whether Koro can actually kill him, but he's certainly sending a message.
It's a very strong message. That's an aggressive move, just go and nick the enemy red buff, but it's what he does in the bottom lane. As I said, if Name doesn't apply ultimate, he cannot look to trade with the huge range advantage Deft has over the Twitch.
Yeah, Rat-a-tat-tat now available yet again, but he's not going to want to use that in lane at all, is he? He's going to want to save that for when they're facing up against this dragon.
It's only useful for an all-in trade. That's why when people talk about Twitch, I think Pomelo was interviewed when he was on the LPL caster desk. He says that Twitch is not a very good champion because he's so focused around his ultimate. When his ultimate is up, he can do disgusting things and run a team fight. But if you ever kite out that ultimate, it doesn't apply much in this short range.
Yeah, Clearlove actually looking for a steal here. Not going to go in it. They just cede away the first dragon here for Royal Club. But EDG, you have to think that they don't even care. As you mentioned, I mean, they're not built around having early dragon control.
No, the 2 early dragons are a bonus. They can always pick up a 3rd dragon if they ever get control over their area in the future. First dragon for Royal Club at 19 minutes. We know it's going to take another 24, even theoretically, 30 minutes to have the other 4 dragons in. The timers for this game are getting later and later, and it suits EDG as they start to get more and more item pickups on both their hyper carry and their very tanky Mundo.
Yeah, and speaking of hyper carry, Def takes down the bottom outer turret. He's now free to roam this map. Trinity Force in hand here as well, which is very important. That is a massive power spike for this Kog'Maw. As Korn continues to try and clear out this wave, can't quite clear the back line with that Orb Deception just yet, but he's very close. Phantom Dancer looks like it's the next option here for Name, so not going for the purple build. And what do you think about that?
That's interesting to see. I guess he's just going for more of a teamfight focused build at this point, going for the flank engages, going for the 1v1s against Deft. I don't think he really wants to opt into 1v1s, even though it's a Twitch versus Kog'Maw matchup. It feels like Kog'Maw's being so well fought. I mean, Mako's not leaving his side, is staying next to him. So again, he's going for a teamfight build with the extra dagger. It's either going to be Phantom Dance or he's going to build the boots too and then go into the Shiv. Either attack speed item is fine. But again, it's teamfight focused. It's about the rat-a-tat-tat.
Yeah, we'll see whether he opts to go for more of that critical strike from the Phantom Dancer or whether it is going to be that static Shiv. But we shall see as we have some time to discuss it if we feel like it here, Papa Smithy, as a pause does come through.
Yes, there's a lot to consider this game. Things are going better than expected for EDG in the early game, nicking away the early dragon, just having no timer. Star Royal Club, they got them the second dragon, which again extends the game. One of the best ways to deal with Juggernaut is to feel empowered enough to turret dive, and usually it's something like a 5th dragon or an early Baron that will open that. The only real win condition we've seen consistently against the Juggernaut comp, and I use Juggernaut a bit lightly because, again, with Dr. Mundo, it's not a true Juggernaut. You feel like the Dr. Mundo is going to be at the front of the fight, not the Kog'Maw, which is usually the core tenet of a Juggernaut comp. In this Protect the Kog'Maw, Dr. Mundo comp, the best thing to do is to break the base. That's how you beat this team. It has a lot of wave clear through the Lulu, through the Kog'Maw, but breaking the base is the important factor to taking it down. And they're nowhere near breaking the base here at 20 minutes. Only a turret down, even in turrets. Winning in Dragons is EDG. The late game's getting closer and closer as the minutes tick on.
Well, it's true, and if they are aiming for this late game, I actually really love having the Mundo in this comp, just because, I mean, if you think Hyper Tank, you're going to be thinking a Dr. Mundo, you're going to be thinking a Maokai, Scion, champions like this that have massive potential health pools, massive regen in the late game, super unkillability, and Mundo I just think is one of the best for that. And
I follow that logic, but the issue is that Dr. Mundo has a fairly weak, exploitable laning phase, has a high item threshold. If you told me you like Maokai in the comp, absolutely. He can pick up a Righteous Glory and he's ready to go. He's got AoE utility in his ult. In the bottom lane, we're seeing another trade.
Oh, no, I'm actually getting forced to flash out of the way here. There's the tidal wave. The exhaust comes through as well as the living up artilleries are just hitting so easily. As Zero, he's going to take one himself. Clearlove just throws out that Ice Blast, and it just looks too easy for EDG sometimes.
It does, and they're very, very good with the Kog'Maw.
Insect just saying, okay, see you later. Pawn's been good.
Yeah, just Koreans walking past each other in the jungle there. Maybe a bit of respect coming through. Probably just didn't notice. Let's be real. They continue the push very aggressively with the Trinity Force. Not quite a Corki, but still a lot of turret damage, and this should be an inner turret down as well.
Yeah, Robo Kog'Maw just smacking away on this turret. You can see Tycole's blessing there as well, adding the extra damage, and Mako has been brilliant this game.
So let's return to the Mundo. Absolutely, if you could just show up with a late game Dr. Mundo in a Juggernaut comp, absolutely the best champion you could ever ask for.
Yeah.
But because he has a high item threshold, because he has a weak laning phase, can definitely be turret dive. Something we saw in the Snake game, but not in this game, was the focus on diving Mundo early. It's too risky to run Mundo. You go earlier game, you go for the Lulu top, you go for the Maokai top, just with a Righteous Glory for a power spike. Dr. Mundo's weak laning phase is something that can be exploited. And if you ever add late game to late game, there's just so much time for the enemy team to be assertive in the mid game and ensure late game never comes. Yeah. That's why you don't have, Jace, Nidalee, Xerath combinations, which are all poke and no team fights. Because if the poke ever goes wrong, if you're ever flank engaged upon, you die. So you can't put all your eggs in the basket for the late game and not get punished. But this game, EDG doing their best job of doing that right here. Unfortunately, Southern Royal Club haven't been able to punish them enough.
And it has a lot to do with Clearlove just having so much dominance in the early game on this Nunu as well. And we go back to talking about Clearlove all the time, but man, taking that dragon very, very early on, following it up with an immediate one afterwards as Koro's actually switched down to this bottom side of the map. Name is going to be able to take down the outer turret. And with the Blade of the Ruined King, actually, a Twitch not going to have as much of a problem dealing with this Dr. Mundo as he otherwise would. But
sure, but let's think of a 5v5 fight. Clearlove's going to walk past whatever CC there is and instantly Ice Blast, targeted Ice Blast, the the Name. Even during rat-a-tat-tat, you're going to lose so much attack speed, and your move speed's going to be crippled as well. I mean, he could just apply the ultimate, and it does move speed and attack speed debuffs as well. Nunu really deals with what Name is doing as a movable long-range AD carry, and there's no sort of answer for that coming through from Star Royal Club, barring some miracle engages from Insec and Korn.
Speaking of Insec, we found out just a little bit by the members of EDG. Scuttle Crab going to be secured by Royal Club though, so they've got the vision of the Baron, but definitely not Soul Vision as there's 2 pink wards in that Baron pit. Name will pop that ambush, but not going to be able to go in on it. As Koro just starts up the split push.
Again, the reason why I don't like Mundo in this comp, which we've seen twice now, is it's trying to have your cake and eat it too. In this game, maybe EDG will get away from it, but I feel like it's just kind of a maladaptive pick base. It's something that can be used against you at the highest level of play, which this is, but Star Royal Cup haven't been smart in executing as Name finds a lot of members.
Yeah, he's been tagged by the cleaver there as well. Misses the second one, does Koro, as Blade of the Ruined King was used to give Name a little bit more room to run away, but EDG sort of flexing their muscles on Royal Club at this stage.
I mean, the late game's looking much sooner. We see Death Cap, Morello Nomicon, not quite 40% CDR, but Juggermore is in effect, at least at the moment, as Commonwealth's right at the front.
Yeah, and you can see him running around here. Oh, Aqua Prison lands. Insec is most definitely dead. Spirit Rush. Deft is going to be the focus here as well, but look at all of the shields coming through the healing. He does finally go down as Name picks up the kill, just auto-attacking from the backline. A Cathian surprise is in the end going to finish him off as Korn flashes over the Aqua Prison, misses the charm. Mako down very low, so's Korn completely out of mana. Korn picks up Mako, and Royal Club, they managed to turn it around and take it 3 for 2.
And the thing that EDG aren't respecting is the consistent damage coming out of Star and Royal Club. It's not actually Name, it's actually Korn doing so much damage. Clearlove, he got too aggressive going for these Raptors. Very tanky.
Yeah, he's getting slowed down, but
not when the Whimsy comes through.
Yeah, Blood Boil, Whimsy, that's a pretty fast Yeti. And he's out of there.
I mean, EDG, they didn't need to turret dive. That's the big thing. Koro was the first person to die, just tanking turret and far too much aggro. No need to play that aggressively. Death Cap, Morello Nomicon, Ari is going to be doing so much more damage than Death Cap, Morello Nomicon, Lulu. And they just didn't fight around their power spike smart there, EDG. They tried to bite off too much, and there should be a second dragon, evening up the dragons for Starhorn Royal Club.
Yeah, maybe a little bit later than they otherwise would have hoped. Baron is an option now. EDG were pinging it out. They were thinking about it, but of course, Ward in the back of the pit now, so Royal Club going to know what's going on. That can be cleared out relatively easily from EDG if they do spend some time up there. And we saw, as that fight was breaking out, EDG had a gigantic wave that crashed on the bottom inhibitor turret.
They have had their waves in good order. That's pretty much the standard protocol for an EDG lineup. Just want to talk about the whole Kog'Maw Mundo comp once more. It's obviously very interesting as an analyst because it's something different from the norm. Juggermore works because you can have Kog'Maw at the front, eating skill shots, and then also absorbing all the supportive ultimates. In this case, the Lulu Wild Growth, the Lulu Shield, all the Nami Peel. The positioning's so much more weird when you have a Dr. Mundo. Mundo wants to run straight at the enemy in the front lines. You kind of feel priced in to use the Whimsy on him, to use the Wild Growth on him to give him a bit of a consistent slow, because otherwise he only has the Cleaver for potential single target slows. Then it's just to protect the Kog'Maw. Then it's just a situation where if Korn gets the right engage on the backline, he can kill the Kog'Maw if those supportive ultimates are down. So even though you do have a late game situation where you have the tankiest of tanks and the highest damage of AD carries with long range, you have to split your resources, and there's so much more potential for mistakes. There's so much more downside in a fight. I feel like you just funnel into the mid game, get that Morgana top, get whichever top laner you want with an earlier power spike, and play something that just kind of plays itself out naturally rather than trying to force the hyper tank and the hyper carry.
That's true. So you actually think that subbing out the Mundo here for a Morgana would have actually worked in a true Juggermore fashion?
I feel like it's just so much clearer what you do. You have all these supportive abilities. You have one MVP to use them all on. Kog'Maw's at the front, so his positioning of consistent damage, he never loses damage because he's the person everyone's engaging upon. He's the one that's hitting the backline with his long range. Absolutely. I just feel like the Juggermore brings out everything about Kog'Maw because his consistent damage is disgusting. Let's be real. With the Biocane Barrage, his range is so long. That's 8 seconds of basically God tier AD carry damage because he can't be killed with all the supportive abilities. But Dr. Mundo, again, he's the one that's demanding all the attention. That he's running at the enemy. He's at the front line. You just have this weird situation where the Kog'Maw doesn't really know where to position. Does he try and be in a pseudo Juggernaut position, be at the front of the fight, and then the Dr. Mundo's again further aggressive. It's very weird for positioning, and that's why I feel like it's a bridge too far, especially given the risky laning phase of picking a Dr. Mundo.
Yeah, it's interesting. That being said, Koro hasn't been punished for the laning phase, but we'll see whether the split up fight actually works out, because what you mentioned sort of plays into the hands of Korn here as well, who kind of wants this scrappy, messy fight.
And look at these items. Korn at 27 minutes, Death Cap, Morello, Nomicon, Void Stuff. That's going to kill Kog'Maw if he doesn't have the Wild Growth used on him or the shields. It needs so much attention. Exhaust will have to be split-second accuracy coming through from Mako. I mean, Name can also do creative things with his position. To be honest, if Name can get in the back, kill Kog'Maw and trade his life for it, he'll go for that trade. It's much more important to EDG's comp that Deft goes down, because their consistent damage outside of Deft is minimal. I mean, obviously Dr. Mundo tanky does a lot of consistent damage, some decent consistent damage from Pawn, but Korn does a lot of consistent damage, and Name is mostly about his ultimates. If that ultimate gets them a 1-for-1 between AD carries, you take Korn's consistent damage over anything EDG can put together.
Yeah, well, it's true, and especially when Name, if he's using his rat-a-tat-tat to try and kill Deft in a team fight, he'll probably half-health everyone around him at the same time.
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, how do you position to get damage onto Deft, but somehow ignore all of the Yeti's CC and peel and the attack speed debuff coming through? It's a very theoretical thing. Maybe they can just get aggressive wards and look for a flank when they're out of position around Baron or Dragon. It's just very difficult to do. It's why I find the position in these fights so interesting, because Deft was at the front of the previous fight. That's why he died. And Koro was as well, but he was tanking turrets, so it actually wasn't as tanky as the Dr. Mundo's items might have suggested. The timings and the positioning for EDG are very specific, and it wouldn't be that case if they had different picks. Star and Royal Club, you have to watch Korn, 2-0-2. He's set up to carry. He's the one who's had so much time to practice putting on his carry pants while they had those sub-80 carries. HYY and Wei, definitely one of the level of Name. So kind of what we always focused upon was, what's Korn really getting done this game? When he was on Orianna and the wave clear, he actually tried the Lux a couple of times. Absolutely, it didn't work. But taking a champion like Korn, like Ahri with a strong laning phase, and then the ability to transition to an assassin has been quite natural to Korn. He's looked great on the Ahri. And he's going to have to do some heavy lifting if Star and Royal Club want to win this game.
Yeah, especially at exactly this time as well. 27 minutes into the game, this is the time when Ahri is wanting to shine, especially now that you've hit that item spike that you mentioned before. So is it really up to Korn to make sure that this time they manage to pull ahead? Because right now, they're 3,000 gold behind.
I feel like his team is setting him up to assassinate Deft. That's the big thing. If they can get the wards, if they can get the insect kick, the flash kick, however they can get a Deft away from his team into an Ahri charm, absolutely they can win a team fight. That's what I can say about what Star and Royal Club are trying to do. But at EDG, they're so good at position. They don't often make big mistakes. Finding a winner to do that is going to be difficult.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Being said, we'll go through the items just a little bit. Clear Love. He's picked up that Locket of the Iron Solari, has that one in his back pocket. Both of our 80 carries now. Blade of the Ruin King's completed. Trinity Force, in comparison to a Static Shiv, probably puts Deft a little bit further ahead in that department, but both of them have that pickaxe going towards that last Whisper, and you can see a bit of a gold lead here for Deft already, but not too much. About 500, 700 gold?
That's about 1,400 gold. So it's a decent late.
Okay,
it's a decent advantage. Just the Trinity Force versus Static Shiv, as you're mentioning,
yeah,
about the difference between those two items. He's strong, but he's still maybe another lifesteal, maybe just the last Whisper away from doing big damage. Not a lot of armor stacking, so last Whisper doesn't really cry out as a needed purchase right now for Deft. Honestly, it'd be interesting to see where the Nunu goes with this build. He's got the cooldown reduction. Does he go for a Frozen Heart just to further decrease, be just the biggest dissuasion from Name ever engaging? It's the 15% attack speed Cold Steel debuff to add on to already the Snowball and the ultimate. Will he go perhaps into another Mikhail's, just do a Snake, follow Beast Lead, and go for a second Mikhail's for Kog'Maw? This comp's all about Kog'Maw, so anything to amplify, maybe even go full support and pick up the Zeke's Herald for more lifesteal. There are many flexible options. That's kind of the interesting thing about Nunu, is that he always has a lot of health. He's able to buy aura items quite happily. And you have to think he's going to opt into something to help his team. Because selfishly, I mean, what does he really do? He kind of auto-attacks people, hoping to get a bit of mana back, the visionary passive to come through. Snowballs, and that's basically Nunu and a T.
Yeah, and we've all experienced the AP Nunu. And what does he do? He runs up, someone goes, oh, look at how much damage my Snowball did, and then dies instantly.
I mean, Banshee Veil, not even enough to stop all the potential interrupts that ability. Not a realistic pickup in competitive. I'm interested to see where a lot of this game goes. We talked about the positioning for EDG. We talked about the assassination potential for Star and Royal Club. Even the builds aren't clear from the likes of Nunu. A lot of questions to be asked, and that's the exciting thing about teams being playing at the top level. Strategies like the Juggernaut that have been so strong that aren't really solved necessarily. A lot of variables to see how they play out in this matchup.
Yeah, and also looking at the top lanes here as well, Godlike yet to complete his Frozen Heart, and when that comes through, that's going to be stopping Deft from doing 20% as much damage, you have to think. But, ladies and gentlemen, the pause is over, and we're now back into this match. As EDG just doing a little bit of pushing into this mid lane, but still having complete control of that Baron buff, and we'll see where the Royal Club will be able to force a fight anywhere in this earlier stage, of course. But you have to think that the clock is ticking.
Yeah, they were actually able to take out another outer turret just at the tail end of that pause before we rejoined. So 4 turrets to 2. The gold leader in the advantage of the late game scaling teams. Always scary. Name looking for an aggressive open. So many pink wards in the inventory. They're starting to consistently pink ward their flanks. That's going to be an important thing as this game goes on. Even Kog'Maw has a pink. Because as they move up, just keep pink warding your flanks to stop the engage from Name.
Yeah, and actually Deft doing a whole lot of damage to Godlike here as well, and that is very worrying when your tanky Maokai is getting sort of 3 hit to half health by the tanky, by the Kog'Maw.
I mean, realistically, he's not tanky against Kog'Maw at this point, though. It has a bit of magic resist, has a bit of armor, but mostly is health stacking, so that plays into Kog'Maw's build path with the Blade of the Ruin King for current percentage health damage, the Biocane Barrage for the maximum health magic damage, quite happily. I would like to see the Infinity Edge as the next pickup, but you have to think the armor stacking is going to come very, very soon.
Yeah, Godlike probably going towards that Frozen Heart as quickly as he can. Loves to have some of that cooldown reduction there, as well as EDG going to continue to clear out this vision. You can see there's a cheeky ward on that top side of the Baron Pit that hasn't been spotted out by EDG, so Royal Club are going to know if there's going to be any sneaky Barons being taken down. As Korn just going to be clearing waves here in the mid with that Void Staff cleaned up, picked up in his back pocket. He's going to be doing a whole lot of damage to these minions, most definitely. Insect now trying to wrest some control of this Baron area. Koro, he might find Name there as the Vision Ward gets put down. Pawn's going to find him as well. We'll see whether he actually manages to spot out the rat. Oh my goodness, he gets away.
He managed just to get into the brush. That was the difference between life and death for Name there. He does live. Interesting to know, Atlas, nobody's building a Randuin's at this point. Randuin's one of the best items to build against a Twitch. Okay, you might say, well, duh, it works great against AD carries. But the big thing is, if you gap close on Twitch and he uses the ultimate through you, the Cold Steel passive is applied. That's already negative attack speed. So even if you're just the first person being hit, it applies, and it's a very important thing. Korodo's building towards the Warmogs. A lot of respect being shown to Korn's damage over Name's.
Which is quite strange. I mean, of course, Korn, he is doing very, very well. 202, he's got that trinity of items. He's looking fantastic, but you have to think that Name is the highest damage threat on this map for Royal Club.
I don't know if I agree with you. It's such a fine point, especially at this point, that with Last Whisper being completed, they're both doing a lot of damage, that's for sure. But, I mean, Korn has been consistently being able to do damage and has so much more mobility, whereas Name's almost rooted in place, but basically is much more predictable in terms of his movement, doesn't necessarily have any kind of mobility. He'll probably use his ambush to engage, then we'll have Flash available compared to all the mobility and consistent damage from an Ahri. It's definitely a case-by-case situation, but no Randuins, not even a Warden's Mail, is a surprise to me.
Quite strange. Insect is going to tag Clearlove. Clearlove's going to care so little, it's ridiculous. Or they're going to continue clearing out vision here as Godlike. Now going to pick up some minions here on the bottom side. Did finish the Spirit Visage before going towards that Frozen Heart.
And there's the Warmogs.
Yeah, Warmogs completed now for Koro. So both of our top laners sort of forgot that there's much physical damage going on at all this game. As Insect, he's going to safeguard his way out of here. Doesn't get hit by the Voidus. There's the flash as Insect gets flashed on by Deft. That is a big cooldown now. Down, though, for Kog'Maw, but they get rid of the jungler. Does this mean Baron for EDG?
They would not have 3-man flash for it if they weren't willing to start the Baron, but Name could wreck them with the low armor values.
Yeah, Name actually wants to hang out over this wall here as well. It is going to be a 4v5, but Baron is doing a whole lot of work. Maybe it's still a 5v5 because this big purple guy probably on the side of Royal Club with how EDG are positioned in this pit, but the fight breaks out. Korn takes so much damage. Clearlove, he's tanking Name from the backside, and Name's getting so much damage down with this rat-a-tat-tat. Korn, he lands the charm, but he's going to go down as Deft, getting so much damage in this fight. Name, he's still at full health as he's racing after these members, but no, it gets turned around on. And EDG, they pick it up in the end, but what a valiant fight from Royal Club.
Deft was so low for so long, but the two supports stay alive, still had mana, and Deft lived to get the exit kill on Name. 6-2-4 is Deft against his old team. So much frustration, so near but so far from getting that big team fight kill. We're going to see the replay, so they peel off, and remember, they haven't built a lot of armor, so they are getting wrecked by the damage coming through, especially from Korn, doing massive damage. But Name is free hitting, so is Deft. That looks in the advantage for Star Royal Club at this point, but they get the kill on Korn. That's the massive factor. The living artillery does hit, but look at the health members. Name's full health. That's the big consideration. You wouldn't have thought this could happen, but that's what when we're talking about supports, Atlas, they have so many shields, so high effective health, held his heal on for so long to turn around that fight. Deft in his use of summoners has always been a wonderful point. But the Juggernaut versus giving that over to EDG, it's just like Snake. They're so good playing around their AD carry.
Oh, yeah, and Deft just looks so good on this Kog'Maw as well, able to position so beautifully. And what you were saying, you were explaining to us is a comp that's awkward to position in. It
is awkward to position in, but it still worked out. They were able to kite backwards. The cooldowns, the second round of cooldowns came up for the supports, and they won the fight. But you can see these are very technical fights. It feels like the window between an EDG teamfight win and a Starhorn Royal Club teamfight win is very small. As Clearlove, he's been caught.
Clearlove could have been. There's the tidal wave to come through here as well as the absolute Zero gets channeled for so incredibly long. Name already at half health. Zero almost dead. No one is going to die, and that almost seemed as if Clearlove had caught the entirety of Starhorn Royal Club.
Well, when he's as tanky as he is, that's always a possibility. The living artillery hits on Name again. They got position. Here comes the engage.
Yeah, that's actually the flash into the Twisted Advances. Koro now finds position in the front of the fight. Deft running so incredibly quickly, and is it going to be the Kog'Maw Shows? The Orbit Deception does a whole lot of work. Godlike falls down. Name now might be caught off to the side as Aqua Prison doesn't quite find him. Korn is most definitely dead. The double kill for Deft. As the Wild Growth does wear out. Ambush going to tag Name here as well. As we're not going to have the W still up here for Deft, so it might just have to be an inner turret instead of everyone dead on Royal Club.
But you have to see, with the Whimsy, Deft functions so similar to the rat-a-tat-tat Name Twitch being played, but the thing is, it's only an 8-second downtime, then he has it again. The Whimsy can be reapplied. This is the reason people don't play Twitch, is when his ultimate's down, he's just a short-range AD carry. Insect was hanging around looking for the Insect kick onto Deft. That's awkward, the Insect kick. But that's what he needed. He needed to get Deft away from the backline. The zoom kims onto Deft, and the adorable Battlecast Kog'Maw skin. Kog'Maw is doing so much more work in these fights, and you can't take a Twitch into Juggernaut. You can't take a Twitch into Lulu Kog'Maw and hope for it to work out.
Yeah, Insect looking for pawn here, and you're exactly right. And I mean, I'm not going to go anywhere near my oven after this because this Kog'Maw is so frightening and looks so much like an oven.
And that's the thing. If you fail the rat-a-tat-tat, if they disengage from the ultimate, team fight changes for Name. He cannot. He's gated by that cooldown so much. If they get the perfect fight, rat-a-tat-tat can take down the team. But if Deft, makes a mistake, he can kite backwards as supportive abilities. Whimsy and Biocane Barrage will be up again in a few seconds, and they can just try again.
Yeah, well, precisely. And Royal Club, they're going to need to disengage, but do they have enough options? They've got a Janna, of course, the queen of disengage, but the rest of the team, a little bit all in. You can't really twisted advance your way out of a fight unless you're in an enemy minion wave.
And that's why it was a weird flash twisted advance engage. It wasn't onto Deft, and it was on a cove where Deft, when he had Biocane Barrage up, could free hit very safely. There was no one that could get onto him. Insect tried to weave a kick in between 4 members to try and kick him over the cove, but it wasn't realistic. It was only going to hit once out of every 20 times, or some sort of low statistic like that. And again, the over-engage from Godlike just cost his team.
See, Name was spotted out coming down that mid lane. EDG now without very much vision. Of course, while all this was going on, Baron didn't fall, so Royal Club can hang their hats on that. They stopped the Baron. And that is most definitely a good thing. And it was a 4v5, with, I guess, Baron being on their side for that one.
QSS completed on Deft, has the Mikhails available, Locket's finished for his team. Doesn't look like any more supportive items are coming through, just a bit more selfish stats. You can see finally a Warden's Mail to try and deal with some of Name's rat-a-tat damage. EDG, they don't want to face check anything. In fact, they do pop over the Banshee Veil coming through. They have super minions pushing in the mid, but it's been well answered so far from Starhorn Royal Club.
Yeah, Voidoo's comes through here as well. Godlike has to pop the Vengeful Maelstrom. Starhorn Royal Club, can they make it in time to save the tree? No, they can't. Deft is there. Name, though, he's exploding him with his ultimate, but just gets ripped apart by Pawn. There's the absolute 0 for the explosion. And Deft is so stupid on this Kog'Maw. It is insane. Kog'Maw, triple kill relatively easily there as Korn, he's relegated to inside his own base. And Koro is like a bloodhound looking for this Ahri.
Korn is going for the kill.
Trying to take down Deft. He doesn't manage to take him down. The shield was beautifully timed from Pawn. This is going to be the top lane inhibitor turret. Maybe even the game, as it was a clean ace coming through for EDG. Pawn tanking things up like nobody's business. A bit of a swags on his at the same time. And EDG going to take down this first game in emphatic fashion. 14,000 gold is the lead. And EDG say, yep, Name, you can stay on Royal Club.
That was a wonderful win from EDG Atlas. The big thing to take away for me is the one time Koro was late to group, there was 4 members dead because the Juggernaut-esque moves. The Lulu with a big stack of AP gave Kog'Maw 900 health when he was out of position. Remember, Name opened after Kog'Maw had taken down a couple of turret hits, had taken down the tanky Maokai. It was a half health Deft versus a full health Name, and suddenly had a huge burst of health, and it all changed from there. So we're going to see a replay to see another one of the excellent fights in this game.
And this is going to start with Godlike being caught there in the top lane.
Being caught, look at his items. This is a Spirit Visage, Righteous Glory, Frozen Heart, Merc Treads. But that's what happens when you're against an AP Lulu and a Kog'Maw. We're going to roll the tape now. He's absolutely caught because the damage coming out from this combination is insane. The damage is all Kog'Maw's, but the Whimsy moves on to what? 600 effective movement speed. He falls quite low. He falls very, very low, but the extra health coming through, it looks like he had a Warmog's given to him. It's basically Warmog's amount of health. And that's just the reality of the Juggernaut-esque part of the comp. And Mundo had no impact. If they had had a top Morgana, that fight would have... This is Mundo showing up now as the cleanup tank for some reason, Atlas. You can see the Mundo did nothing to get the big win there. And that's why I wondered, why not just go for the Morgana? Go for something a bit more early game. Maybe it's late game insurance, but... Man, if you have a Kog'Maw at the front doing damage, giving Lulu the opportunity to speed him up and give him some health and shield seems pretty good.
Yep, certainly would be, but we'll see whether they do it in the next game. Of course, there is still one more to come, ladies and gentlemen, and EDG seeing whether they can make it another 2-0 here against Royal Club.